Friends, I create every video for several hours a day. Let's get 500 likes on this video.
Old style. London buses can be seen in the shot of the Bank of England and the Royal Exchange in 1910. A group of boys pose with a goat in Regent's Road in Great Yarmouth in 1896. Smartly dressed men and women talk amongst themselves in Weston-super-Mare in 1923. A group of gentlemen take in the sights at Parliament Square, including Big Ben in London in 1890. This image from Jevington, East Sussex in 1888 shows how a cornstack was built. A couple enjoy a spot of outdoor painting by Bolton Abbey in 1886. March 1943. San Bernardino, California. Trinidad Gutierrez, left, and Molly Alcanto, women suppliers who work at the Santa Fe Roundhouse. Their job is replacing lamps and oil cans on incoming locomotives. Mrs. Gutierrez has 4 children. Her husband is in the hospital after an injury at the Kaiser Fontana steel mill. Miss Alcanto's boyfriend is in the Army. May 1943. Bethlehem Fairfield Shipyard, Baltimore, Maryland. The ship weighs at evening. Wellington, New Zealand, circa 1935. Advertising photography. 2 men in long johns. May 1943. Bethlehem Fairfield Shipyards, Baltimore, Maryland. Women workers during lunch hour. March 1943. Truck transportation between New Orleans and Texas. Truck driver and sailor at a highway coffee shop on U.S. Route 90 in southern Louisiana. Circa 1900. Chicago and Northwestern Railway locomotive CNW605 on turntable. Tennis talk. Althea Gibson, U.S. and Wimbledon tennis champion, gives some pointers on the game which has brought her international fame. Some 500 students attended the tennis clinic yesterday at Midwood High School. Palermo, Sicily. One American soldier who found his relatives in Sicily was Vincent J. Orivello, i.e. Crivello of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, eating ice cream at a sidewalk cafe in Palermo with 3 of his cousins, 1943. Nyssa, Oregon. Japanese-American farm workers have an ice cream soda on weekly trip to town, 1942. Women selling ice cream and cake, Scotts Run, West Virginia, 1935. Farmers eating ice cream on the back porch while their wives attended the bi-monthly meeting of the Helping Hand Society. Gage County, Nebraska, 1938. Canal Street, the main thoroughfare of New Orleans, Louisiana, 1901. Mulberry Street, New York City, 1900. Quista, New Mexico, grade school, 1943. Mexican migrant woman harvesting tomatoes, Santa Clara Valley, California, 1938. Mexican family, Brawley County, Imperial Valley, California, 1935. Summit Avenue Ensemble, Atlanta, Georgia, 1899. Migrant agricultural workers family, 7 hungry children. Mother aged 32, father is native Californian, Nipomo, California, 1936. Family moving into trailer at the FSA, Farm Security Administration, Camp for Defense Workers. This family is from Minnesota. The man came to San Diego 10 months ago and enrolled in a vocational school. He started to work at Consolidated Aircrafts as a riveter and is now a clerk in the machine shop. San Diego, California, 1941. 5 generations on Smith's Plantation, Beaufort, South Carolina, 1862. High up on the top floor of a rickety tenement, 214 Elizabeth Street, New York, this mother and her 2 children, boy 10 years old and the girl 12, were living in a tiny one-room and were finishing garments. 1912. Julia Aubert, messenger girl at the National Women's, i.e. Woman's Party, headquarters, 1922. Diavolo performing his bicycle daredevil act before a large audience, 1905. Carrying wounded on Comfort, 1915. Restaurant cook, Mogollon, New Mexico, 1940. Restaurant counter, 1953. 4 African-American women seated on steps of building at Atlanta University, Georgia, 1899. Bridge game, Nurse Hamaguchi and Friends, Manzanar Relocation Center, California, 1943. Friends, there will be more interesting photos towards the end of the video, so please stay with me until the end of the video. I love you. founding members of the Irish Women Workers' Union, IWWU, pose for a photo outside Dublin's Liberty Hall in 1914. Two traveller families prepare a meal in Loughra in County Galway. The traveller community, which is thought to be native to Ireland and whose members are also known as Pavis, dates back to at least the 12th century. A woman having her panniers weighed at Clifton in around 1908, as a bearded man looks on in a courtyard behind her, and two women crouch by a wall to her right. Men and women sit on a horse-drawn Royal Mail car in Galway's Eyre Square in August 1886. A fair day at Ballybricken in 1910, with visitors buying tea and coffee from a booth, while children and livestock stand nearby. A group of women from Claddagh, Nonnie O'Donnell, Mary Rogers, Kitty Connolly, and a Mrs. Gill pose for a picture by the waterside during a fishing trip in around 1905. Three Irish women sit on a cart as they prepare to attend a funeral in County Kerry in 1899. A family outside their home in Alexander Street, Waterford, in February 1924. This vintage winter photo shows a 1927 electric blanketless bed, created by Milton Fairchild of Washington, D.C., a contraption that kept a person warm without the inconvenience of covers. In 1958, my father, Sandy Sanderson, used this 1937 Dodge as a service car for his gas station in Goodell's, Mitch, to push-start cars. He also let the neighbor kids learn to drive in the field. This vintage winter photo, snapped between 1909 and 1932, showcases how boys had to shovel the snow off the ice before skating on it, draining their energy and time. It was a rough day on the job for this milkman in Manchester, England, seen here slogging through heavy snowfall in 1946. Scott and Zelda Fitzgerald. Scott Fitzgerald was one of the most celebrated American writers of the 20th century. Every year, from 1920 to 1937, the Royal Air Force held a pageant at Hendon Aerodrome in the far northwest of London. British women allowed to join police forces. As World War I deprived the country of young men able to serve in the police forces, women organizers made inroads into law enforcement. The 1921 movie, The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, was the highest-grossing film of the year, beating out Charlie Chaplin's The Kid. As the use of electricity boomed, it began to be used for heating as well as lighting, and new forms of curling the hair using electricity and heat were born. Born in London, Bob Hope started his nearly 80-year career busking on streetcars and boxing for cash, before starting a vaudeville act with a friend from dancing school, Lloyd Durbin. Jack Dempsey. Dempsey was one of the most successful boxers of the 20th century. With the advent of the automatic washing machine still 16 years away, in 1937, these French women would have washed their clothes by hand several times a year. From 1899 to 1961, the 6 days of New York cycling event was held, as indicated, over 6 days in the velodrome at Madison Square Garden in New York City. An African-American couple stands in front of their home in the 1920s with their dog and 5 children. During his presidential campaign, Republican Party nominee and soon-to-be 29th President of the United States Warren G. Harding takes a break from showcasing his political prowess to demonstrate his talent with a sousaphone. 4 years after women won the right to vote, the National League of Women Voters gathered on September 17, 1924, to encourage and empower their fellow women to do just that. America's favorite lady pilot prepares to take off for the first leg of her planned flight around the world, Oakland, California, to Honolulu, Hawaii. The young starlet, who is around 9 or 10 years old in this photo, takes on the role of a cowgirl as part of a Western show. In this 1939 photo, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, the grandparents of the current British monarch, take a walk on the grounds of Windsor Castle. The star celebrates making her Broadway debut in Gigi by completing her own name on the theater's marquee in this charming shot from 1951. At 5:12 a.m. on April 18, 1906, a violent earthquake broke loose with an epicenter near San Francisco. It's surprising what certain items at the grocery store would have set you back in 1920. For instance, a dozen eggs cost 47 cents, $7.09 today. 1 pound of round steak cost 40 cents, $6.04 today. And 3 pounds of macaroni cost 25 cents, $3.77 today. As the automobile industry emerged in the 1920s, ladies would oftentimes paint their nails using high-gloss car paint. Ladies, listen up. The most trendy hairstyle of the 1920s was the bob. To get the initial cut, it cost $5, $75.46 today, and to upkeep the style, it was $2, $30.18 today per week. The latest entertainment medium at the time was quite pricey and was therefore seen as a major investment for most Americans. A ticket to catch a movie on the big screen cost 15 cents, which is about $2.26 today. That's a far cry from the national average of a movie ticket in 2022, which is $10.95. If you weren't fortunate enough to have a radio in 1920, that's okay. Not many people were. Then listening to vinyl records was your main source of entertainment at home. Laundry isn't just going to do itself, you know. But if you wanted a washing machine, it would have cost $81.50. With inflation, that's about $1,229, which doesn't seem too far off by today's standards. The newest and hottest vacuum on the market, the Hoover electric cleaner, set households back about $39, or $588.60 today. How badly do you want clean carpets? A fresh set of wheels varies depending on the make and model, but a Chevrolet in the 1920s cost $525, which is just under $8,000 today. Wouldn't it be nice to own a new car for that price in 2025? The average price for a half-gallon of milk cost 33 cents back in the day. Today, that'd be about $4.98, which is surprisingly more than our current average of $4. If you dreamed of making the white picket fence a reality, a new house would have cost approximately $6,296, about $95,017.97 today. In 1920, to rent an apartment in New York City cost $60 per month. With inflation, that's $905.51 in 2023, which is still less than you'd pay to rent a single room nowadays. friends, subscribe, and write your opinion in the comments.